Hello everyone, this is Zflex and welcome back to another A Producer's Approach video. In this video we're going to be looking at Vicetone's song Heartbeat featuring Collin McLoughlin. So if you guys haven't watched my videos in the past, I break down these videos into 3 separate sections. I have an intro backstory section, a breakdown analysis section, and lastly an outro section. So Heartbeat by Vicetone is a song that I've been a fan of for quite a long time, and Vicetone has quite a few big hit songs that I like, but I was first introduced to Vicetone when they first appeared on Monstercat with their song Harmony, which was pretty unique to me because that was the first song I ever heard combine orchestral elements with progressive house music. That was never done prior to 2013 or 2012. That was like brand new. No one ever did that really. So that was unique. And then after that, Vicetone's second release ends up being Heartbeat, and this song is really good. And there are a lot of notable songs by Vicetone, whether it be on Monstercat or off Monstercat, but at least the songs on Monstercat are What I've Been Waiting For, Animals, Nevada, however you want to say it. Those 3 songs, just kind of as a general example, and then some of the songs off of Monstercat are Stars, their Cash Cash remix, their Waiting for the Light to Come remix, the Linkin Park remix. They have a lot of really good remixes as well, but or the Lowdown as well. But for me, Vicetone was a pretty big part in terms of me liking progressive house music. The 2 really big artists that I really was influenced by at the time I was starting to make music and mix a lot of music was Vicetone and Project 46. They probably debuted around the time that I was really starting to think about making music, and I was already starting to like mix music. So these two artists were really influential for me starting kind of in the progressive house area of music, which is where I actually started making music. So Vicetone, I know like a lot of the structure of their music because I mixed a lot of their music in the early days. I actually started off mixing music before actually making and composing music. Like I do kind of like what you would call a mixtape, I guess you'd say, because I didn't really know how to use my software, which is Ableton. I didn't know how to use it early in the day, so while I was self-teaching myself, I was doing kind of mixtapes in Ableton, which was kind of nice because that's the only software that at the time was pretty flexible to do making music and then making kind of mixtape sort of like things. But I got really used to the structure of a lot of house music through Vicetone's music and how they structured their music. Same with Project 46 as well, but more so Vicetone because I mixed a lot more of their stuff at that time. So anyways, Heartbeat's a really good song. Collin McLoughlin's vocals are really good, and just the 2 drops in the song and just how the song is structured is really good. So anyways, we'll get into the song Heartbeat and let's get into the breakdown. Alright, so as you can tell, it's more of a traditional house intro with the kind of a kick intro. There's no snare, but what I like about this intro is that there's not just the kick and the snare and the bass line. Like you kind of hear the chops of the syllable for Heartbeat in the background, kind of start right off the bat. Then you hear the kind of bass, or yeah, kind of the bass line, kind of the root note playing along with the kick. And then there is another sound as well playing in the background as well, but I just like how there's a little bit more going on than just like a kick, snare, and the bass line. Like you kind of hear the vocal sample kind of chopped up in a syllable to make it kind of like a vocal chop, kind of oscillating or going back and forth. and glitching, almost like, in a sense, in the very beginning. So that's really cool. That's something I really like. And then that kind of transitionary sound kind of comes in, which is really cool at the 15-second mark of the song. And then now you kind of go into the harder kick. So as I said, the era of this song is in 2013, where a lot of the music was more structured in this way, which makes sense why the song is 6 minutes 34 seconds and structured with a more traditional kind of intro with like a minute long kind of kick intro, with it slowly progressing. So anyways, let's keep going. All right, so the rest of that intro, the kick comes in, and then there is this sound that goes wah wah, comes on every other beat. So like it sounds like it comes on the 2 and the 4, which is cool. The piano plays the root note of the chord, so that's pretty cool. And then you hear the dun 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 dun. That's kind of the same sound that plays since the beginning, just to kind of start off playing the root note as well. Actually, I think that synth note plays along with the bass line, or actually kind of acts as the bass line in the beginning of the song, which is really cool. Like you kind of hear a lot of the sounds build up, and then you have the vocal chops kind of in the background still playing in the background until this part where it breaks and you hear the vocals from Collin McLoughlin come in. So anyways, there was a transitionary percussion there and some VFX to transition. So let's keep going.
The sunlight begins to fade now, and I feel like I'm losing time, but I don't know how I'm here. The sunlight is turned to gray, and I feel like I'm losing love again. I don't know how I'm here.
Alright, I just want to say in this part, I really like how they slowed it down. The piano just plays the chord progression, and then the vocals just play. So it's pretty much almost like an acoustic part where you just hear a piano and the vocals singing. And then they have like a little melodic riff from the piano a little bit later on in the section that plays like a little kind of melodic riff in a higher timbre, which is really cool. And what I like overall about this section is that it really gives like emphasis on the vocals and the pairing of the piano. Like with the vocals, you can really hear the effects because there's nothing happening that's, you know, kind of going to distract you from those two main core sounds, like percussion or sound effects in the background or another synth melody. Like it's just pretty much for the beginning of this break section, the piano playing the chords and the vocals until that little melody comes in, but it doesn't really distract that much from the piano chords and the vocals within this break section. So that's just one section I really like listening to when I listen to the song, because the vocals just are like so chilling and so good when I hear it in this section. So anyways, let's keep going.
I could feel your heartbeat. I could feel somewhere you're looking down. I could feel your heartbeat. I could feel somewhere you're looking down. 'Cause it's you I'm loving, and it's you that I wanna breathe. And it's you I'm loving, and it's you that.
All right. So that's considered the build-up section, kind of break into the build-up. Really cool. There is a kind of transitionary percussionary sound going into the section, and then the piano chord I actually think goes into playing eighth notes. Dun 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 dun. Yeah, I think it's playing eighth notes, so it's playing the chord progression but in eighth notes. You still hear the piano melody as well playing in the background, but then you hear the more white noise kind of introduced in this section. and then the vocals kind of change up a little bit more into the vocal hook, and then you kind of hear like a white noise riser in this section as you hear the vocals start to build up. But it's really cool because there's no really big percussion build up in this build up. There might be more of a percussion build up in the second drop, or building up to the second drop, but in this one, like, it's nice that there's not really a percussion buildup in this drop. So like it's not as emphasized that it's going to be dropping. Like you kind of could tell, but it catches you a little bit more off guard than if, you know, you start with like a snare buildup, which is really cool. I like that quite a bit, actually, that it kind of sneaks up on you a little bit, and it's not so exaggerated and telling you like, okay, we're building up right now, which is really cool. And then it's going to build up here. There's a breath of air where it says, it's you that I want to need. And then the first drop, which, I mean, I like both drops, but the first drop, like, I love it every time because it just kind of has that heart pumping kind of bam, right, it gets right to the point. So, yeah, that's what I noticed, and we'll continue, and I'll let you guys listen to that first drop. All right, so that was the first drop. I really love this first drop. So it drops the kick, you hear the kick, you hear the bass line, and then you hear almost like pluckish stabs kind of in the higher frequency range. They could be saw waves, and they're just kind of playing along. There's no really lead melody yet, and you just kind of hear that. So it just drops like, it just kind of goes along with the chord progression, which is crazy. It's just the kick and those sounds and the sub bass. So it's just those sounds just right off the bat, which is really cool because that kind of mimics almost like a dubstep bass drop, but it's a little bit different because it's more chordal in a sense. So it's like a harder progressive house drop, but the energy kind of matches like what a dubstep drop would be kind of in this period of time, at least in terms of energy, not in terms of sound design and structure and all that. But it's just really cool there. And then slowly you hear the lead build up in the background. It's kind of filtered quite a bit, and some volume automation make it lower. You kind of hear it slowly building up. And then there's like a nice VFX noise that kind of transitions after you slowly hear the lead build up, and then the vocal kind of hook comes in and says, this is you that I want to need again. And then the second part of the first drop hits. There's a hi-hat that comes in that plays on every beat. So every time the kick hits, there's like a hi-hat that it's like it's not it's not more consecutive, it's just on every kick, which is really cool. And then you hear that lead melody sound, which is really cool. And then all the other sounds, like the kind of pluckish saw wave sounds, and the higher timbre still playing, the bass sound still playing, the same kind of chord progression, the subs playing as well, and they all kind of pair really well together. And what I will say about Vicetone is that they create the catchiest melodies. Some of their songs, like I think Harmony, or some of their other songs like Tremble or Ensemble, like they literally play the same melody over and over but switch the sound, so it adds variation, which is a technique I learned actually from listening to their music, and that's a technique I've used quite a bit in my years of producing as well, because I remember listening to a lot of Vicetone music and picking up on that kind of structure and way they did that. So I kind of copied them in a sense and was like, oh, this works, so let's see if it works for me. And it's really cool how they were able to, incorporate that and how catchy their music is, and just by changing certain sounds that are in the same kind of timbre range or frequency range or sound range as the lead sound they're playing. But the lead in this part is really good. Hard for me not to, headbang and pump my fists in this section. So anyways, that was the drop. There was a VFX kind of outroing here, and then you kind of hear the piano come back again in this break section. So let's get it going.
And I know now we're getting older. The world we built is slipping through our fingers. We're running out of time. But you are the one I've chosen, and I won't lay still, living left behind, imprisoned by this love.
All right, so what's interesting is you hear the dun, 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 dun. That kind of lead melody kind of taper off from the drop section, which is playing with the piano. So you hear that for a little bit, and then when the vocals come in, it changes that sound. The melody sound changes to like a piano playing that melody sound, which is really cool because it pairs really well with the vocals and the pianos playing the chords as well. So yeah, it's just something I noticed as well, and the sub bass also coming in this section to kind of fill up more of the frequency range, which is really cool. There's also some variation in the vocals. It's not the exact same vocals as the first break section, which is really nice. Collin McLoughlin has really good vocals, so it kind of, Vicetone lets it really shine in this song. And you kind of get the emotional aspect with the vocals just being paired with the piano and having like a slight melody in the background and not really any percussion to distract it. So it kind of emphasizes that emotional value of the song. But I just want to point out the melody change for what I previously said, that they kind of use the same melody but switch out the song, not the song, but the sound, and that's in a similar frequency and timbre range to where you don't really notice it that much if you're not really paying attention. So I really had to pay attention to hear that sound. So anyways, that's something I noticed. And then there's a VFX part leading into this section here. So let's keep it going.
I could feel your heartbeat. I could feel somewhere you're looking down. I could feel your heartbeat. I could feel somewhere you're looking down. 'Cause it's you I'm loving, and it's you that I wanna breathe. And it's you I'm loving, and it's you that I wanna need.
All right, so this section is pretty cool. The piano chords go into the 16 notes instead of more like whole notes. Or actually, I think it's eighth notes. That's my mistake. I think it's eighth notes more than the whole notes, playing the chord progression. And the vocals, are still singing, then it transitions. And then the piano gets changed into the more synthetic pluck that you hear in the drop section. And then the vocals still kind of play out, and Collin McLoughlin still singing, which is really good. And you hear the pairing of the two for a little bit before the snare kind of comes in this build up. So there's no percussion kind of when it ends, and then the snare kind of comes back in, which is again different from what I said in the first drop where there wasn't really any percussion build up. So this build up, like some of the other songs we examined, like Lipstick, where they're exaggerating this is like gonna be the last drop, or like Night After Night from Rogue, like this is the last drop, so there's a little more percussion in this section, kind of building up and emphasizing like, okay, this is the final build up for the last drop of the song. So it's kind of interesting how they throw in a snare build up towards the end and not in the beginning. So anyways, let's keep it going. All right, so in that build up, you kind of hear the vocal of Collin McLoughlin saying to you. That's different than the first build up section actually as well, because the vocal sample is different in the first build up actually than this one. So he's changed it a little bit. You hear the melody more in this section than you did in the first build up, for the reason being that the melody kind of hits right off the bat once this song drops in this drop. So the first drop, they didn't really emphasize that melody because you weren't hearing it right off the bat. So it's just kind of one interesting thing to note. And then you hear a little bit more of the plucks in this drop to hear in this drop. So all the sounds kind of are heard right when this drop hits. But the way the drop is structured is kind of the same, with the same kind of vocal hook, that it's you that it's you that I want to need. So anyways, we'll hear the second drop, the outro, and then I will talk about the rest of the song after that. So enjoy the rest of the song.
I wanna need. And it's you that I wanna
All right, so that's Vicetone's song Heartbeat, featuring Collin McLoughlin. So we'll go back to that second drop, which I don't know. I was headbanging and fist pumping in that second drop, so I was enjoying listening to it. But what I did notice while I was, headbanging, was I noticed that the U vocal is in the background kind of the whole time of the second drop, which is a little bit different than the first drop. All the sounds are pretty much kind of playing on display as they were towards the latter half of the first drop, which is really cool, with the percussion having some hi-hats and all the lead playing, which is really cool. And then the bass chords playing along with kind of the saw wave kind of plucks that are paired with that kind of chord progression with the sub bass. What I did notice in this drop is that they cut out towards the end of the drop, which is something that I've done in a song. So you kind of cut the kick in the last measure or measure or two to kind of like emphasize like this is going to be the ending of the song, transitioning into the outro of the song. The song I actually did that for is Reaching Halo. We did that in the second drop of Reaching Halo to kind of emphasize like, okay, this is the end of the second drop going into the outro. So that's a technique I know that a lot of house artists use. I think subcoplextral artists or electro artists used it too, but I know that's like a very big progressive house music kind of technique. So that's really cool. And then some of the sounds faded out in that section when the kick and the percussion stopped to kind of end that second drop, which is really cool. And then it goes into the outro where you hear the piano for a little bit and you hear that wah sound play with the kick. And the snare, and then it transitions out actually to the snare and that kind of wah sound effect outroing out, which is really interesting. I think towards the end there's like a VFX that outros out, which is a little bit different than the beginning, because the beginning starts off with the kick and you don't even hear the snare really at all, or maybe towards the build up to the first break, but not really. You mostly hear the kick and maybe like a hi-hat or something, but this outro kind of emphasized more the snare than the kick, so it's a little bit interesting there in terms of some variation there, so that's pretty cool. But overall, this is Vicetone's song Heartbeat featuring Collin McLoughlin, and man, what can I say about this song? This song is just so good. There are so many things I like about the song. It's the reason why I come back and listen to this song quite often when I'm doing my kind of music marathons for myself, like when I just feel like listening to music for like 2, 3, 4 hours. Like this is always a song I come back to and listen to when I just want to chill or just want to listen to some music, or I feel like, you know, pumping myself up. So vocals really good, the structure of the song really good, the pairing of the piano and the vocals in the break sections, I like that quite a bit actually. The variation of vocals, that is not the same vocal hook used the same time over and over again, is nice, and how it's different in the first and second break section. There's some variations in the vocals. I like how there isn't a snare buildup or a percussion buildup in the first drop. I've never really noticed that before actually, which is why I like the first drop a little bit more than the second drop. And I like how the first drop hits harder. You don't really hear the melody, you just hear like the chord progression stabs with those kind of saw wave plucks, and then the plucks on the bottom, and then the sub bass kind of playing. So it's just kind of like a harder drop, which is what I like. And I like how it slowly introduces the melody after that. But I do like how it varies, like in the second drop, just going straight into the melody and kind of having everything going all at once. And just the overall structure of the song is really good. Again, like I said, the break sections are all really good, how they taper off. There's no percussion. That just really focuses on the vocal and the piano in the sections to really give off the kind of emotion that they were trying to portray in the song. And I like their technique of, you know, changing different sounds and similar timbres, but being a similar lead, or if not the same lead, just kind of playing over and over, so it kind of is catchy in your head, which is really cool. Their sound choice in the song is really good, and overall just a really good song on the Monstercat album 012 Aftermath. Like this is definitely like one of those sought after, at least for me, like house songs that I will always listen to. I mean, 012 is a really good album too. There are a lot of good house songs, but this might be my favorite house song off the album. I know No One, I think, is on that album too, and I think Collin McLoughlin might also do the vocals for that song. It might be on 010 or 012. I can't remember exactly. Might have to look that up a little bit later. But overall, this is one of my favorite Vicetone songs among many Vicetone songs. And this was kind of the reason why, besides harmony, this was the song and the reason why like I really got into wanting to produce music and mix music, because there was music at like this at the time that really was just like, whoa, like I kind of want to do this, and this would be really fun to try and make and mimic. So anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Definitely check out Vicetone's other music. There's so many countless other songs, not even on Monstercat, that I like, but the songs on Monstercat are all pretty good too. Their newer stuff's not as good as some of their older stuff, but they do still have a few good songs that are pretty good in their newer style that kind of is a homage to their older style. So anyways, hope you guys like this video. Like, comment, subscribe, and I hope to see you guys in the next A Producers Approach video. All right, have a good one, everyone. Peace.